faithfully sharing insights and interpreting the world's best books. Hey, this is Sally with the Book Talk. The book we're discussing today is Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. Mr. Feynman shares anecdotes and fun stories from the life of physicist Richard Feynman. On the early morning of July 16th, 1945, at the Los Alamos test site in New Mexico, a huge orange-red ball shot up into the sky with a thunderous rumble. The first atomic bomb in human history was successfully detonated. 20 miles away, scientists watched the explosion intently, wearing sunglasses and holding their breath. But one of them tossed aside his sunglasses and sat in the truck, risking eye damage from UV radiation. He saw this world-shaking spectacle with his bare eyes, saying, "I wanted a fully immersive experience, so I chose not to wear glasses and watch the blast directly." That man was Richard Feynman, the renowned physicist involved in developing the atomic bomb. Feynman won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1965 and is seen as the smartest theoretical physicist since Einstein. He's also a hero to Microsoft's Bill Gates, Google's Sergey Brin, and Elon Musk. As a well-known physicist, Feynman made huge contributions to research and teaching, including quantum gravity, superfluidity, the Parton model, Feynman diagrams, and more. On top of that, his Feynman lectures on physics have been translated into 10 languages and are hailed as classics in physics. But folks loved him not just for his brilliant research, but more for his endless curiosity, desire to learn, honesty, humor, and how he found joy in solving problems. Beyond physics, he was a radio fixer, electroplater, safecracker, painter, drummer, and Mayan hieroglyph decoder. Oh, Feynman's fun side shattered the stereotype of scientists being all serious. Bill Gates said Feynman is a model of joy. Surely you're joking, Mr. Feynman. The content of this book comes from Feynman's conversations. For years, Feynman would drum with his colleague's son, Ralph Layton, telling stories as he played. Layton recorded it, and later he turned those tapes into this book. Feynman himself chose the book title. It's divided into 4 parts, chronicling Feynman's life stories, from childhood through graduate school, his military service in the Manhattan Project, to returning to academia as a professor. The writing is light, humorous, and laugh-inducing, showcasing Feynman's scientific spirit and unconventional character. The Los Angeles Times commented, "Anyone who reads this without laughing out loud must be psychologically unwell." Next, I'll break it down into 4 parts for you. The Great Physicist. The 4 parts cover his childhood in a small hometown, studies at prestigious universities, military life developing the atomic bomb, and post-teaching experiences. Now, let's explore how childhood education often shapes personal development. Despite coming from an ordinary family, both Feynman and his sister became physicists. This makes you wonder, what early education did young Feynman receive? So let's dive into part 1, the physicist's childhood. In 1918, Feynman was born in a coastal town near New York, enjoying a relaxed and joyful childhood. Before his birth, his father told his mother, "If it's a boy, he'll become a scientist." His father meant it seriously, investing heavily in young Feynman's education with progressive open-ended methods. Through daily life and play, he nurtured Feynman's curiosity, thirst for knowledge, and problem-solving abilities. When Feynman was still in a high chair, his father brought blue and white bathroom tiles for him to play with. Rather than letting him bang randomly, his father taught him to stack them in patterns, 2 white, 1 blue. When his mother questioned this, his father explained, "I'm teaching him sequences and how fascinating they are." That's the first step into mathematics. So, from a very young age, his father taught him numbers and shapes. As Feynman grew, his father kept cultivating his habit of careful observation. One day, while playing with a toy wagon containing a small ball, Feynman noticed, when pulling the wagon, the ball rolled backward, When stopping it, the ball rolled forward. Why did that happen? He shared his confusion with his father, who didn't just say inertia, but encouraged closer observation. Father said honestly, no one really knows why this happens. But look, when pulling the wagon, if you observe from the side, the wagon's plank rubs against the ball. Actually, relative to the ground, the ball moves forward a bit. It's not going backward. Feynman then ran back and put the ball on the wagon. Observing from the side, sure enough, his father was right. When the wagon was pulled forward, the ball did move forward a little relative to the ground. Although his father didn't give a direct answer, he sparked Feynman's interest in observation and gave him a chance to voice his thoughts. Feynman recalled that, unlike his friends' fathers, his own father made time from his busy work to give him more companionship. His father often took him hiking on weekends, strolling through the woods while teaching him about plants and animals. His father also held Feynman and read from the Encyclopedia Britannica, turning abstract concepts into tangible things. Thanks to his father's inspiration, Feynman developed intense curiosity about the world while still young. Of course, to become a scientist, observation skills alone aren't enough. You also need hands-on experimentation abilities. At 11 or 12, Feynman set up a small lab at home, using heater circuits as his experimental tools. One day, while Feynman was experimenting with circuits in his room, his mother's friend visited. Hearing crackling sounds, she worriedly asked, "Oh dear, aren't you afraid he'll destroy the house?" But Feynman's mom didn't mind, saying, "It's okay, it's worth it." Family education not only sparked Feynman's interest in science, but also subtly shaped his character. Feynman's father was a uniform merchant who made official garments for officers. Seeing them both in and out of uniform, knowing dignified appearances, or just packaging. When Feynman was very young, sitting on his father's lap reading the New York Times, he saw a picture of worshippers bowing to the Pope. His father said, "He's just a man wearing a crown." The Pope is human too. He eats, drinks, and has bodily functions. He has the same strengths and flaws as anyone else. Feynman said his father taught him not to value certain things blindly and not to conform. Deeply influenced, he didn't crave fame or wealth, nor did he fear the powerful. This straightforward character defined Feynman throughout his life, as we'll see later. In short, Feynman's journey to success relied on his parents' thoughtful guidance. With natural brilliance and hard work, he progressed from his small home lab to prestigious university laboratories. At 17, Feynman entered MIT and later pursued graduate studies at Princeton. Now let's explore part 2, Feynman's academic journey. At MIT, Feynman first majored in math and electrical engineering before switching to physics. Physics classes were too easy for him. So, during physics lectures, he'd study advanced math, sometimes audit biology classes, and even successfully impersonated a chemist. This stemmed from a part-time job experience. He once worked at a friend's electroplating company with just 4 employees, where Feynman was dubbed chief chemist. Though an amateur, Feynman lived up to the title. Dissatisfied with existing methods, he experimented constantly, developed new electroplating products, and even placed magazine ads. A friend in electroplating saw the ads and exclaimed, "Wow, this company must have a real chemist and dozens of chemistry experts. We can't compete." Feynman chuckled inwardly. "Yeah, the chemist was just me, a physics major plus 1 bottle washing assistant." Feynman was that brilliant yet hardworking student, driven by a relentless truth-seeking spirit, even experimenting on himself. At MIT, someone claimed swallowing aspirin with Coca-Cola would knock you out instantly. Feynman thought it was nonsense and decided to test it himself to debunk the myth. so he volunteered to take aspirin and coke together. Bystanders were disappointed when Feynman remained fine. Unconvinced, they insisted he must have taken them in the wrong order. They argued, first aspirin, then coke, or coke, then aspirin. One way must knock you out. So Feynman tested it 3 ways. 6 aspirin tablets and 3 cokes later, while the audience waited, even preparing to call emergency services. But seeing Feynman perfectly fine left them utterly dumbfounded. Thus, Feynman firstly absorbed knowledge at school while becoming everyone's favorite jokester. Soon, his 4-year undergraduate journey ended. In 1939, Feynman graduated with top honors from MIT. Eager to broaden his horizons, he entered Princeton's graduate program. He studied quantum mechanics under renowned physicist John Wheeler, earning his theoretical physics degree in 1942. Doctorate. Feynman said, Princeton exposed him to brilliant minds, and engaging with these giants accelerated his growth. Feynman recalled delivering his first academic research presentation. The audience included Russell and von Neumann. Terrified, he thought, how can a rookie like me present before such legends? And he nervously scribbled equations on the blackboard. Then Einstein suddenly walked in, asking, "Where's the teacup?" Strangely, Feynman calmed down, pointed to the cup, and resumed writing equations. Focusing intensely, he tuned out the room's giants and delivered his talk with newfound confidence. Another time at a seminar by the Bohrs, Niels Bohr won the 1922 Nobel for Atomic Research, a physics deity. Feynman sat in the packed room's back corner. When Feynman spotted flaws in Bohr's argument, he directly challenged them. Later, Bohr privately told his son, "Remember that kid in the back? He's the only one unafraid of me. Next time we brainstorm, skip the yes men. Find him first." Later, Bohr also gave Feynman high praise. He said, "Feynman is confident and upright, the only one unafraid to point out my mistakes." During Feynman's PhD at Princeton, World War II was raging. Though America hadn't yet joined, war tension permeated the nation. America began preparing for war, suspecting Hitler might be developing atomic bombs. So America urgently launched the Manhattan Project to build atomic bombs, recruiting physicists. Thus begins Part 3, Feynman's military service. In 1943, an Army general came to Princeton recruiting talent. He proclaimed loudly, "Physicists are vital to the military. We need physicists." Feynman saw his chance to serve the country. He eagerly signed up, got selected, joined Los Alamos Lab, and became part of the Manhattan Project's genius team. Who would have thought? Initially, Feynman's task was checking gear blueprints and verifying data. But Feynman wasn't satisfied, was he? He studied all related materials daily, joined expert meetings, and actively shared insights. Gradually, the military recognized his value and made him head of the theory group. But this project was top secret. What exactly was he doing? Even his wife didn't know. So in the isolated military base, Feynman began intense, demanding work. He often worked overnight, but being an optimist who handled stress well, he stayed cheerful through research challenges and personal hardships. Drumming became Feynman's stress relief during heavy workloads. He'd walk around trees, drumming under moonlight, imagining himself as a Native American, pounding worries away. Without drums, he'd flip trash cans and beat captivating rhythms on them. To spice up dull days, he bought 2 lock-picking manuals. Using his math skills, he mastered safecracking and opened nearly every military safe. Once in a colleague's open office, finding nobody there, his fingers itched to spin the file cabinet's combination lock. Soon after, a clink sounded. The cabinet popped open. He tried other safes, all had the same combination. On impulse, he left notes in the first cabinet. Lock expert Feynman borrowed a file. Second, not hard to open either, smarty pants. Third, same combo, same guy. When colleagues returned, seeing the last 2 notes, they feared espionage until reading the first. Relieved, one tearfully said, "Thank goodness it's you." Thus, all military safes got upgraded. not against spies, but against prankster Feynman. During the bomb project, Feynman tragically lost his beloved wife, Arline. And rushing from base to hospital, he found the watch he'd gifted her, stopped at her death moment. Back at work, he hid grief behind intense focus. When friends asked, Feynman just said, "She passed. How's work going?" Months later, passing a department store, he saw a dress and thought, Arlene would love that. Then he wept like a child. Feynman wasn't heartless. He refused to drown in sorrow. A year after Arline's death, he wrote her a letter. It remains sealed until after Feynman's own death. Be signed with typical humor. P.S. Forgive me for not mailing this. I don't know your new address. During Manhattan, Feynman's reputation soared. Pre-war's end, research institutes competed for him. Post-war, physicist Hans Bethe recommended Feynman for a Cornell professorship. This leads to part 4. Feynman the professor. Feynman believed teaching leveraged his talents better than military work. So, during his 1945 military physical, Feynman pretended to have delusions and successfully fooled the psychiatrist. After being rejected by the military, he came to teach at Cornell University. At that time, Feynman was only 27 years old. Professor Feynman had strong views on education. He hated rote memorization and advocated bold exploration and innovation. Feynman outlined 5 reasons to study physics. First, training engineers skilled in measurement and calculation. Second, cultivating scientists dedicated to advancing human knowledge. Third, appreciating nature's and the universe's wonders. Fourth, developing innovative scientific methods. Fifth, fostering a creative spirit of free exploration. To him, science was mysterious, physics beautiful, research joyful, while exam-focused education was utterly unacceptable. During a visiting professorship, he mercilessly criticized Brazil's education system. In 1949, visiting Brazil, Feynman found students never asked questions, just memorized rote answers in a purely exam-driven system. At semester's end, Feynman lectured at the Brazilian Academy of Sciences before students, professors, and government officials. Feynman didn't care about saving face for his audience. He bluntly asked, "So many Brazilian kids buy physics books earlier than Americans. Why does Brazil produce so few physicists?" Because the children's efforts are wasted. Holding up a textbook, he declared, "Open it anywhere, I'll prove that this contains no science, just rote memorization." Afterward, Brazil's education minister was deeply ashamed, lamenting, "Mr. Feynman's criticism comes from genuine concern. I knew our system was sick, now I see it's cancerous." This style inevitably made some see him as arrogant, but it showed Feynman's principled commitment to education. He devoted himself entirely to research, indifferent to fame. During 5 years at Cornell, institutions offered lucrative positions, but Feynman craved teaching from the podium. He said, "Teaching and students give my life meaning. If offered a perfect environment without teaching, I'd never accept." In 1951, he learned Caltech had built the first density gradient centrifuge, exactly the instrument his research needed. So Feynman joined Caltech and stayed forever. There, he immersed himself in research and teaching, becoming one of students' most beloved professors. Not only that, he also won the heavyweight Nobel Prize. His Nobel came from contributions to quantum mechanics theory, but he claimed it actually came from a spinning plate. Why? One day in the college cafeteria, Feynman saw someone toss a plate. Spinning midair, its Caltech emblem wobbling on the rim. Feynman noticed the emblem wobbled faster than the plate spun. After repeated observations, he found at small angles, the emblem rotated twice as fast. This reminded him of electron orbital motion in relativity, then Dirac's equation in electrodynamics. This insight brought Feynman his Nobel honor. Around 3 a.m. one night in 1965, Feynman's phone rang. Annoyed, he snapped, "What kind of call is this at this hour?" Actually, the caller was informing him he'd won the Nobel, news that thrilled most people. So Feynman calmly said, "Geez, I'm sleeping. Call back in the morning." Hmm. Later in class, students asked if he was ready to receive the award. Feynman hesitated. Well, strictly speaking, I'm not prepared. He'd heard Nobel recipients must bow reverently to the Swedish king, then retreat backward, never turning their backs to their seats. Feynman scoffed. I might fall backward. Can I hop like a frog? Count my hops there, then hop back after. When Sweden's Nobel Committee heard this, they called immediately. Dear Mr. Feynman, no frog hopping required. After receiving the award, you may simply turn and walk back to your seat. Only then did Feynman agree to attend. At the award ceremony, Feynman was expected to give an acceptance speech. Most would offer thanks, but Feynman said, discovering joy in my work and seeing others apply my findings, that's my true reward. After winning the Nobel, a colleague bet $10 Feynman would eventually become an administrator. But Feynman won that bet outright and collected the $10. He declined the National Academy of Sciences membership for 5 consecutive years. He found bureaucratic duties suffocating, saying, "This is how I defend my freedom." This unconventional spirit made Feynman less stuffy, more playful, science's eternal prankster. Some struggle in one field until their creativity dries up. In contrast, free-spirited Feynman kept his childlike wonder, living passionately and colorfully. At 50, Feynman enrolled in an international art correspondence course. He believed art and science both express nature's beauty. He wanted painting to help people feel the universe's wonder, aided by a scientist's observational skills. He became quite skilled, eventually sketching models and exhibiting, with many amusing stories. Once, a massage parlor offered $60 for a nude bullfighting painting to hang in their shop. Feynman found the concept too vulgar, so he spent $80 hiring a model to paint ancient Roman slave massage instead. When finished, he discovered the parlor owner had been arrested. Another time, he painted Marie Curie as a bare-chested beauty with flowing hair, titled Madame Curie Observing Radiation. Poor Madame Curie became another victim of Feynman's mischief. On February 16, 1988, Feynman died of cancer. His last words, "Dying is boring. I'd hate to do it twice." Next day, his students hung a banner atop Caltech's library. "We love you, Feynman. With that, surely you're joking." We've completed our journey through Feynman's life. Brilliant, authentic, and gloriously unconventional. As a kid, he was the smart boy next door. As a student, persistent and diligent yet playful. As a soldier, he created and witnessed the first atomic bomb explosion. On the podium, he became the candid, authentic professor, sowing wisdom. Time magazine described him. Feynman's life was like a chain reaction, exploding outward, radiating light and heat. In history's long river, Feynman walked tall like the atomic power he adored, leaving graceful, vibrant arcs in his wake. His brilliance still guides future generations, not as passive tourists, but as bold explorers of science and education. All right, surely you're joking. That wraps up our journey with Mr. Feynman. Reading notes below. See you tomorrow.